Berries are really cool in competitive Pokemon. I'm serious. They may not seem very exciting, they are after all just fruit that Pokemon eat in the games, but in competitive play, berries are consumable items. Held items that can only be used once per battle, and they have all sorts of different interesting effects that enable various unique strategies. And berries have a long history in competitive Pokemon too. In each new game, new berries are released, new Pokemon are released to take advantage of berries. Abilities that synergize with berries come out. Moves that synergize with berries. There's all sorts of berry mayhem going on that many of you are not aware of, but I know all about it. Allow me to tell you why berries are fun and can be used in all sorts of exciting ways. And an entire history of the use of berries in competitive, from the beginning to the most recent game. But first, an update regarding world events. Upon seizing the throne room and finally confronting his longtime political adversary Iron Mugulus, Captonio has revealed information that shocked the entire known world. It would seem that Captonio is in fact the long-lost son of Iron Mugulus. How could it be that father and son are spearheaded against each other as rivals in an all-out war? Can they possibly reconcile? Only by using YouTube's new hype feature under this video, and also liking and subscribing to the channel, will we see how this unbelievable revelation impacts the future of society. Thank you. Berries first came into existence in the Generation 2 games. And it's kind of weird because the berries in this game have different names to all the other berries in later games. There is simply an item called Berry, just Berry. It's the one that restores 10 HP. Later this would be called Aureliano Berry. They gave it a name, but it was originally an unnamed berry. How interesting. Now in Gen 2, the concept of held items was first introduced to the series, and by far the most popular held item in the game was Leftovers, an item that persistently grants chip healing throughout the entire battle. Without needing to meet any conditions or without being consumed, it's just constant healing. Definitely the best item in the game, and to this day one of the best items in the game. But beyond Leftovers, the most popular item in Gen 2 was a berry. It was the Miracle Berry. The Miracle Berry would later be called the Lum Berry. And this is a berry that lives up to its name, because if you're holding this berry and you are inflicted with any status condition, that status condition will be cured immediately. Upon doing so, the berry is consumed, so you have a safety net against any incoming status ailment once per battle. And that is very powerful. Now, Generation 2 is a weird metagame where status counterplay is not as valuable as you would think, actually, because this is a metagame defined by the powerful Rest and Sleep Talk combination. Rest is of course a move that fully heals you and puts you to sleep upon doing so. And after using Rest, you will be asleep for 2 turns. Sleep Talk is a move that will use one of your moves randomly while you are asleep. So with the combination of Rest and Sleep Talk, you can persistently keep healing and then acting while asleep, even though your action will be random. And what's unique about Gen 2 is that Sleep Talk in Gen 2 is able to call the move Rest. In later generations, this was removed. If Sleep Talk lands on Rest, Rest will fail. You won't keep re-resting yourself while sleeping. But in Gen 2, that's not the case. Rest and Sleep Talk are incredibly powerful because you can just keep chaining them together. So a lot of Pokemon abuse this, and therefore you don't really see like Thunder Wave or Toxic. Sometimes Pokemon run Toxic, but it's less common, just because so many Pokemon are able to deal with status by putting themselves to sleep with Rest, which overwrites previous status ailments. The only Pokemon that really want to use a Miracle Berry in this generation, therefore, are Pokemon abusing a Baton Pass strategy. Baton Pass is a move that will switch out your Pokemon and then pass on all stat stage changes to the new Pokemon. So Smeargle here, for example, who can learn any move in the game, can take advantage of Agility to boost its speed and then Baton Pass that Agility to a teammate, and now they have the speed boost. It's a very, very powerful concept that in most generations is completely banned or has restrictions associated with it if it is legal. But in Gen 2, you do occasionally see these Baton Pass teams aiming to pass boosts to a win condition and sweep with that win condition. And usually these teams don't care about having leftovers. They're not trying to keep the game going for a long time and therefore don't really mind losing out on the constant passive healing of leftovers. Instead, these teams would probably rather run the Miracle Berry on their Pokemon to shield them from the only status that really matters here, sleep. Because many Pokemon in Gen 2 have sleep-inflicting moves. Jinx is a popular one with its lovely Kiss, Exeggutor has Sleep Powder, Nidoking has Lovely Kiss as well. So to get the chain going and shield you from something that could potentially stop your Baton Pass chain, Miracle Berry is a great option. But that's kind of the only time you ever see Miracle Berry in Gen 2, surprisingly. Leftovers is just that powerful, and it's not worth sacrificing the persistent healing offered by Leftovers for temporary status immunity when so many Pokemon in the game just run Rest Talk anyway, which is good enough on its own and also gives plenty of counterplay against status. For the most part, the Miracle Berry outclasses every other status curing berry. There are berries that cure specific status. In Generation 2, they're not very creatively named, like the Poison Cure Berry cures poison, later named to Pecha Berry. There's no real reason to use a more specific status curing berry over the Miracle Berry for the most part, except for one, and that is the Mint Berry, which is the berry that cures sleep. This would later be renamed to the Chesto Berry. The reason this is cool is because there's a combo you can pull off with the move Rest. Rest, as I stated earlier, fully heals you and then puts you to sleep. But if you are carrying a Mint Berry, you will immediately be cured of that sleep, giving you a once per game full heal to take advantage of. And the reason you want the Mint Berry and not a Miracle Berry is because the Mint Berry does not get consumed if you're hit with another status. If you're poisoned or burned or paralyzed, your Miracle Berry gets consumed and you can no longer do the Rest combo. But the beauty of this Mint Berry plus Rest combo is that you can take a status like Toxic and not mind, knowing that you have the full heal that will completely bring you back to 100%, put you to sleep, and then replenish your sleep. So you're already healing status that way. It's actually better not to cure your status earlier on if you can avoid doing so. Now you can still get put to sleep and that consumes your Mint Berry, but you are more reliably activating that Rest Mint Berry combo with this. Some Pokemon that could use this are Belly Drum Pokemon, as Belly Drum is an attack boosting move that maxes out your attack and then halves your HP. By resting afterwards, you heal yourself back to full, use that Mint Berry, and you are ready to attack. Now once again, not that popular in Gen 2 OU. In a boring turn of events, in Gen 2 berries are not the best, they're not the most exciting, because it's all about leftovers and rest and such. But later on in the franchise, the Rest Chesto Berry combo did become much better. It's a very good move alongside Calm Mind, and it's good alongside Bulk Up as well, the moves that boost offense and defense at the same time. Often, players want to status these kinds of Pokemon to prevent their sweep, but then you hit them with the full heal into the status refresh, and that's the perfect way to abuse Chesto Rest combo, isn't it? Now, Gen 3 is where berries first started to get interesting, in my opinion. They introduced a bunch of new berries in this game, most notably of all, the pinch berries that boost stats. The most popular among these was the Salac Berry. Salac Berry is a new berry that is consumed whenever your health reaches 1/4 of your max HP or less. And when this condition is met, the berry is consumed and you gain a +1 boost to your speed. This was before the Choice Scarf item was introduced to the game, a more commonplace way in competitive to boost a Pokemon's speed. But before that existed, the Salac Berry was the only way available for many Pokemon to boost their speed mid-battle. And the prime abuser of this new Salac Berry item was Heracross. Heracross is famous for how powerful it is after eating a Salac Berry. Players quickly realized that Salac Berry works great alongside the move Substitute. Substitute is a great move in competitive that will sacrifice 1/4 of a Pokemon's max HP to put a substitute in front of them, and that substitute shields them from incoming damage as well as shielding them from status moves. Since substitute is a way to pretty safely bring your HP low into that Salac Berry threshold, you can substitute all the way down until you are at 1/4 of your max HP, and then you will eat the Salac Berry and benefit from the boost. But what's so great about this on Heracross is that Heracross has the ability Swarm, and Swarm grants your bug-type attacks 1.5x power if you are at 1/3 of your max HP or less, which of course you are, because you've substituted all the way down to eat your berry. So you not only have increased speed, but your stab Mega Horn has 1.5 times more damage, which is crazy because Mega Horn has a huge 120 base power. It's a massive move. If Heracross can manage to squeeze in a Swords Dance at any point in there, before substituting down to its berry and activating Swarm, +2 Swarm boosted Mega Horn will one-hit KO just about everything that isn't resisted. Even resistances usually die to this, it's that powerful. And Rock Slide is fantastic coverage to hit the things that do come in, like Salamence and other flying types. The thing is though that this is a really hard condition to pull off. The reason this is tough to pull off is because in Gen 3, Tyranitar exists, and Tyranitar sets permanent sand on the field as soon as it switches in. If Sandstorm is up, and you're not carrying a leftovers, you're going to be hit by that Sandstorm every single turn, which is really bad. And Heracross bringing its health all the way down to 25% to pull off this combo is going to be very vulnerable to Sandstorm. It only takes a couple turns of Sandstorm for Heracross to just faint from that damage. So to pull this off, you usually have to clear weather and eliminate Tyranitar. Or you just have to be in an endgame where the few turns you have alive at that low HP is good enough that even though you die to Sandstorm eventually, you get a couple KOs and that's fine in that situation or something like that. But often this Heracross set is actually used on Rain teams, because Rain teams are a rare archetype in Gen 3 OU that are able to clear weather and eliminate Tyranitar. And once you do those two things, this Heracross set goes crazy. Rain Dance will of course overwrite the Sandstorm and replace it with Rain, and then if Tyranitar's dead, Sand is never coming back. So this Heracross can safely use this Salakberry combo and not be worried about the Sandstorm damage. And this synergizes with other Rain abusers like Kingdra and Ludicolo who have Swift Swim. Heracross on Rain teams is a classic, but even on non-Rain teams you do see this, just because it's such a powerful set, with such incredible endgame breaking power. And with the speed boost, you do outrun just about everything in the whole game, even the faster Pokemon like Aerodactyl and Jolteon, making this a fantastic late game win condition. Another move you can use to synergize with Salakberry is Endure. Endure is a status move that will cause you to brace yourself, and then if you are going to be KO'd, you will instead survive on 1 HP. And of course, because you survived on 1 HP, the Salakberry will activate, and you will get that speed boost. This is sometimes a bit riskier than Substitute though. Substitute is gradually bringing yourself down into the range and shielding you from damage in the process, and also shielding you from status. Endure, on the other hand, requires them to attack you for this to work. You need them to hit you. But Endure is much better if you want to go in a more reliable direction with Heracross and use, instead of Mega Horn, the move Reversal. Reversal is a move that synergizes perfectly with Endure, because Reversal is a fighting type attack that gains more power the less HP you have left. So this will have maximum power when you are on exactly 1 HP. And Endure is a move that brings you to 1 HP. The Endure Reversal combo can be great, and Reversal has 100 accuracy, while Mega Horn only has 85 accuracy. Even though that Heracross set with Swarm Mega Horn is very good, and does the trick most of the time, it can miss Mega Horn, and missing Mega Horn when you would have won, if it landed, can be frustrating. So Reversal is a more consistent way to go for players that prefer to do that. But this has its own set of problems. With this set, you absolutely need to clear sand from the field for it to work, because if you're at 1 HP, Sandstorm will just eliminate you completely. Reversal is pretty much only worth using if you're at 1 HP with the Endure combo, and it can be played around more easily, because they could status you instead of attacking you or something. But it is an interesting set, and other Pokemon can use this set too, like Medicham can use Endure Reversal and be alright. Another Pokemon that can use the Endure Salakberry combo in Gen 3 pretty effectively is Metagross. Metagross is actually not worried about the Sandstorm damage because it's a Steel type, and Steel types are immune to Sandstorm, of course. And with its Endure Salak combo, it can just take advantage of its great base attack and powerful Meteor Mash and Earthquake to sweep in an endgame. It's a bit awkward though with Metagross for a couple of reasons. Metagross usually wants an adamant nature to boost its attack as much as possible, and with the agility set, the other way to boost its speed, Metagross can afford to run a plus attack nature and still be fast enough to threaten everything. But the Select Berry, unlike Agility, only offers +1 speed. And with a +1 speed boost, Metagross with an adamant nature is not that fast actually. Metagross will still be slower than Starmie, Dugtrio, which is a very bad one because they could defeat you with Earthquake and trap you, and Jolteon and Aerodactyl will also outrun you. So Metagross usually needs to run a Jolly nature for the extra speed to at least outrun Starmie and Dugtrio after a +1 speed boost. But even then, tragically, you still can't outrun Aerodactyl and Jolteon. They will still get you. For that reason, Agility Metagross is the far more popular way to boost Metagross's speed, but Endure has its benefit, allowing you to survive an incoming hit, and it's actually a great counterplay against Dugtrio. Dugtrio will often chip Metagross into range of death, but with Endure Select you can completely reverse the situation on them and outrun them and KO them, turning Metagross into a powerful threat. You just gotta hope the enemy doesn't have Jolteon or Aerodactyl in that case. But this set can work, and it can be pretty solid. Beyond Heracross, the actual most popular Select Berry abuser would be Swampert. Swampert, much like Metagross, is immune to sand and therefore a prime abuser of Select Berry. And Swampert happens to have a couple great options to take advantage of the Select Berry and sub combo. Upon substituting down to 25% health and activating the berry, you're faster than a good chunk of the metagame, enough to pose a threat, and you also activate Torrent, granting 1.5x power to your water moves. So you have a very threatening Hydro Pump. Personally, I don't like Hydro Pump in this set. I prefer Surf because I think the accuracy is really important when you commit so much to an all-in thing like this. It sucks to sub all the way down, get the berry, and then miss Hydro Pump. That's devastating. Anyway though, the more important aspect here is that you have Endeavor. Endeavor is of course a move that will deal enough damage to bring the target's HP to the same value that your HP is. And if you have an odd number of HP, Substitute actually doesn't do exactly 25%. It does just less. So you will substitute down and eventually hit 1 HP actually. So Swampert can be on 1 HP from Substitute, use Endeavor, and then if the enemy is vulnerable to sand, they will just die. Or they'll just get hit by Surf. This Swampert is great for trading in endgames, and sometimes it can single-handedly just sweep a whole team if it gets a proper free turn. It can be played around by faster Pokemon. Starmie is crucially faster than a +1 Select Berry Swampert, as is Dugtrio, Jolteon, and Aerodactyl, and the occasional Sceptile. But Swampert's faster than many things, and this set can cause serious damage. It's a great option on offensive teams. And Select Berry has more applications than just that. It's a great item on anything that is so frail where it doesn't care about leftovers, like Smeargle or Medicham. They're frail enough that leftovers doesn't provide any valuable longevity, and sometimes they'd rather just get that speed boost sometimes to pose more of a threat in the short term. Another popular berry that is used in Gen 3 is the Lychee Berry. Lychee Berry has the same effect as Select Berry, proccing in the same way, but it boosts attack by 1 stage. And probably the most popular user of Lychee Berry is Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl's most common set is Choice Band, an item that locks you into one move while you're in, but grants you an attack boost. It's a great item on Aerodactyl because it's fast and gets immediate firepower from the Choice Band. It's very harmonious on Aerodactyl. But Lychee Berry is an alternative option if you want Aerodactyl to not be a Pokemon that switches in, does one move, and then switches out repeatedly throughout a game, but if you want Aerodactyl to be your final win condition, or a late game cleaner. Because Lychee Berry Aerodactyl takes advantage of Substitute to bring itself down to the range where the berry gets eaten, get the attack boost, and now it's basically a Choice Band Aerodactyl, but it can switch moves, which is really strong. The bad part about Choice Band Aerodactyl is that once you click a move, they can just respond easily, especially if you lock into Earthquake. Plenty of things are immune to Earthquake. But the ability to switch moves on Aerodactyl means you can threaten one thing, then threaten the next thing that comes in. And this is pretty fantastic in a late game situation where you're trying to clean up a game. And Lychee Berry Aerodactyl fits better on teams than Choice Band Aerodactyl if the team is really, really fast paced. Like a Smeargle Spikes offense. Smeargle Spikes offense usually wants to Spore, set spikes, explode, and then go in immediately with offensive threats. And these kinds of teams love a Lychee Berry Aerodactyl in the end game because they've done a bunch of damage, and the Aerodactyl comes in to finish the job. Choice Band Aerodactyl would actually be clunky and give up momentum on this team. So even though the Lychee Berry gets consumed once, and if you switch out and back in, Aerodactyl becomes useless, this kind of team only wants to use Aerodactyl once in the endgame, so that's better in that instance. This Aerodactyl set is also nice on Swords Dance Pass teams. Celebi is a Pokemon that gets Swords Dance, the boosting move, and Baton Pass to transfer those boosts to any attacker. And Aerodactyl is a pretty fantastic recipient for a Swords Dance boost. It's not that threatening by itself, its attack is kind of low, but if it boosts its attack, all of a sudden it's really incredibly powerful. It's fast, and it has the Rock Slide Earthquake combo, it's sand immune, and has Double Edge for powerful neutral coverage too. So Swords Dance passing to Aerodactyl is perfect. Of course, if you're Swords Dance passing to the guy, you want to be able to switch moves, so this Sub-Lychee Berry combo is yet again a perfect fit, giving you just one extra stat boost to attack, and now this can be a win condition. This can often just sweep entire teams easily, it's that powerful. Another cool set that likes to use Lychee Berry is this Scizor set. Scizor is a weird Pokemon in Gen 3, this is before it got Technician and Bullet Punch and all its great options. Scizor in Gen 3 actually kind of sucks because it just doesn't have enough good attacks. It doesn't have Mega Horn, like Heracross. It doesn't have very good Bug Stab at all, or Steel Stab, or much of anything. But it does get Reversal. And much like Heracross, Scizor can take advantage of the Endure Reversal combo. Even though you don't have Stab on Reversal, this is nice because Scizor is a Steel type and therefore is not going to die to Sand, like Heracross is after doing the Endure Reversal combo. Scizor can take advantage of its good defensive typing and Agility to boost its speed. After a speed boost, it endures, and instead of gaining the Slack Berry boost, it gains a Lychee Berry boost to grant it some attacking power. And this can be a sweeper in an endgame. The problem with this though is that sometimes the reversal can be a bit too weak because it's not stab, and you are vulnerable to Pokemon like Salamence and Gyarados who have Intimidate, and can easily stop you. Also, it's very telegraphed. This is one of the only things Scizor can do, so if you see Scizor, you're probably expecting this. Therefore, you won't let them endure and proc their Lychee Berry. You might just switch around. Because of course, the reversal is only threatening if they're on 1 HP. So if you just never hit them down to 1 HP, you're not in any danger. If you know what's happening with this Scizor set, you can play around it easily. It kind of requires the enemy to misplay and attack you on purpose, and then you can sweep. It can be good. Players have used it, but it's a bit of a dubious set. But it's still one of the more interesting applications of Lychee Berry in the game. Now the last of the stat boosting berries you might see in Gen 3 is the Pitaya Berry, the one that boosts special attack. But this is probably the least commonly seen. You sometimes see it on ladder, but usually it's on bad sets frankly, like Jolteon or Starmie using it. They would much rather have leftovers for longevity. Maybe Jirachi could use it since it's steel type and isn't getting leftovers chipped, but I actually see Salackberry more on Jirachi because it does benefit more from the speed. The only set I've really seen use Pitaya Berry is this one, and this set is a huge meme, just to be clear, but I have used it and it's very funny, so I will talk about it because it's a work of comedy. This is Pitaya Berry Charizard. The idea of this set is that much like Aerodactyl and Heracross, you substitute repeatedly until you are at the range where you consume the berry and get the special attack boost. Conveniently, Charizard also has the ability Blaze, which is similar to Swarm. At 1/3 or less of your max HP, Fire-type attacks have 1.5x power, so you're benefiting from the offensive boost from the berry and the offensive boost from Blaze for massive damage with fire moves. Then, you try to pull off Sunny Day somewhere in the interim there, maybe earlier on, to boost the fire damage even further by another 1.5x. So with Blaze and +1 special attack and Sunny Day, you hit him with the big Blast Burn, which is Hyper Beam for fire types, 150 power, but you cannot move next turn. What's funny about this set is that it is a rare special attack that can one-hit Blissey, because it's just getting multiplied so many times by Blaze, Sunny Day, special attack boost, and the sheer power of Blast Burn itself, that it just one-shots Blissey, which is crazy. So it's a pretty interesting way to just bait in Blissey and get rid of it, and it's kind of just a way to eliminate one thing for sure. Because nothing can really come in and survive this. If Blissey can't live it, nothing else is living it. And Flash Fire is rarely seen in Gen 3. So it's just a way to like kill one thing. Kind of like a weird explosion. And then they eliminate you the next turn because you're charging, but Sometimes you can use this to get rid of Blissey or Snorlax or other special walls, and then bait them, eliminate them, and allow your other special threats to clean up and win the game. But it doesn't always work. Like, it's kind of hard to pull all this off. Like, you got a sunny day somehow and then not get paralyzed in the interim by Blissey and somehow not die, which is tough. But if you can pull this off, if you're in position, you can just get a KO on anything in the game, basically, which is pretty fun. I think that's like the only time I've seen Pitaya Berry, really. Maybe Sceptile uses it. But the problem with Pitaya Berry is it requires Weather Clear, and if you're going to go all that effort of Weather Clearing, you're probably just using Heracross. Heracross is usually the best Berry abuser in a endgame situation, or maybe a Reversal Sweeper, possibly, like Medi. But if you're going to all that effort to clear Weather, Pitaya Berry is probably not the best. Maybe Kingdra can use it, because Kingdra is a Rain Dance threat itself. Kingdra is probably the best abuser of it, but Kingdra more commonly uses Lumberry to shield itself. And Kingdra doesn't super need the extra special attack all the time. It's usually strong enough. So even then, you wouldn't see it. Has anybody ever told you about Forbidden Berry technology? Forbidden Fruit? I'm sure you've never heard of such a thing before, but it exists. It's very frightening, very scary stuff. There are berry strategies that used to be good that are now illegal in Gen 3. One of them involved the Ganlon Berry. The Ganlon Berry is a pinch berry that boosts defense. Usually, not very useful. You'd rather boost speed or an offensive stat, generally speaking. But back in the day before multi-stat pass was complex banned in Gen 3, this set right here was used. Agility Baton Pass Zapdos to pass speed to an ally, with the Ganlon Berry as well to also pass defense to them. If you're going all in on speed passing to a threat like Marowak and winning with that Pokemon, you might as well make them as sturdy as you can with a defensive berry. It's sort of like the terrain seed items in later gens. Offensive teams often run those because they're short-term consumables that make you a bit bulkier temporarily, which can make all the difference if you're trying to make a game go quick. So with an extra little defense boost, you might just be able to live one extra hit, get that Swords Dance through and win. This made Speed Pass strategies even more consistent. Not only is Speed Pass now banned in Gen 3, Multi-Stat Pass has been banned for a long time. The chief abuser of the Multi-Stat Pass with berries was actually not this Zapdos, it was Belly Drum Salakberry Smeargle, because with that combo, you just pass Belly Drum and a Speed to one Pokemon, and that's all they need. You don't even need to boost up with the Pokemon. You have the whole package right there. That was insanely broken. But this was another version of it that was very powerful. And the final bit of berry technology in Gen 3 that has recently become forbidden is the Staff Berry, one of the most interesting berries ever made. The Staff Berry is a pinch berry that raises a stat by 2, which is double what they usually raise, but the catch is that the stat is completely random. It could raise your speed, or your special defense, or your attack. You don't know what it's going to raise. That makes it very inconsistent, doesn't it? Some have used this in interesting ways, because what if you could build a team that can take advantage of whatever the boost happens to be? If you get speed, maybe you go to a Marowak. If you get a defensive boost, you go to something like a Suicune or a Heracross that can then boost up further and apply pressure. This was the idea behind this Swellow set with the Staff Berry. Swellow is a very speedy Baton Pass user that can lead the game off, substitute down to its berry, and then based on what stat it gets, Baton Pass to a worthy teammate of that stat. Unfortunately though, this Staff Berry strategy is now illegal because Staff Berry falls under the Speed Pass ban, the recent Speed Pass ban. And I gotta be honest, I didn't realize Staff Berry would fall under that. Even though it can technically raise speed if you happen to get speed from the Staff Berry, it's obviously not the same as just boosting speed directly with a move like Agility, in my opinion anyway, because you cannot rely on getting that speed boost. Even though this is a mechanic involving randomness, I don't hate it. I feel like it's kind of fun, actually. It's a fun version of randomness. And that was a bit of a disappointment to see this get culled as a result of the Speed Pass ban. I don't know why, but I didn't think it counted in the same way, but I suppose it did, because you can get a speed boost from it. If you're confused, by the way, about why Speed Pass would be banned in Gen 3, it's a whole thing. I made a video about it involving Mawile breaking the game, if you're curious about that. It did have to happen, but there was some unfortunate collateral damage from it. including the Salakberry Baton Pass combination now being illegal too, which has made Vaporeon a lot worse. And Vaporeon didn't do anything wrong. You're telling me a little berry is illegal now? A little berry plus a relay baton in combination, that's illegal? Anyway, moving on to Gen 4, where they introduced a lot of extraordinarily powerful little fruits to the game. Gen 4 introduced a variety of new and wonderful berries. One of the most powerful being the new Kustap berry, another pinch berry. This activates when you are at 1/4 of your max HP, and upon being consumed, it allows you to move first in your priority bracket. So it's basically like temporarily you have 999 speed for a moment, but only once. And this is really good on aggressive leads, like Bronzong here. Bronzong is a stealth rock setter. It has the powerful gyro ball attack, and it can explode to trade with enemies. The Kustap berry is a perfect item on Bronzong, because Bronzong's goal is to set stealth rock and then cause as much damage as it can before fainting. If you're foolish enough to attack this guy into range of the Kustap berry being activated, Bronzong will be able to explode faster than you, not only setting stealth rock, but trading with the enemy and starting the game off with some serious early value. Kustap berry is great on slow Pokemon like this that tend to be tanky enough to get hit into that range naturally without even trying to be. And Kustap berry is a berry that has remained pretty consistently great on Pokemon like this later in the series too. The Kustap berry got even better when the Sturdy ability was reworked in Gen 5. In Gen 5 they made Sturdy operate more like a focus sash, allowing you to live a hit from full and survive on 1 HP. This is absolutely perfect with a Kustap berry because you will always have a safety net allowing you to proc the Kustap berry on the following turn and get double value. Kustap berry can also be a great way to play around boost sweepers in a pinch. Maybe a Dragon Dance Gyarados or Dragonite has gotten out of hand. You can switch in such a way that your Bronzong takes just enough damage to be enraged with that Kustap berry and then explode on them. And the explode will happen first no matter how fast they are. This is a damn powerful berry with many different applications. And a lot of Pokemon abuse it in Gen 4. Gen 4 also introduced many more berries that have remained competitively persistent to this day. They're still used to this day, and these are the type berries. Gen 4 introduced one berry corresponding to each type that will halve damage taken from a super effective attack of that type once per battle. These are incredibly good consumable items. Even though they only work once, they reduce damage so much that they allow you to live hits you had no business living, and that can make all the difference. That can make the difference between setting up a boost or not, or getting an attack through or not. And it's fantastic news on any Pokemon with a ×4 weakness. Tyranitar, for example, previously had almost no hope of surviving any fighting type attack. It is ×4 weak to fighting, but now when it can equip the Chople Berry, halving incoming damage from a super effective fighting type attack. And it can live fighting type attacks, actually, amazingly. A Gengar might try to hit Tyranitar with Focus Blast, thinking it's KOing for sure, but the Chople Berry means Tyranitar lives and then KOs Gengar with a super effective Crunch instead. Tyranitar can use many of these berries, actually. It also makes use of the Shuka Berry to shield itself from incoming ground type attacks, probably the most common attack type that it's worried about, and also the Pasho Berry to reduce damage from water type attacks. That can be great against Starmie, who is very common in Gen 4, and commonly Hydro Pumps Tyranitar, aiming to KO it. With a Pasho Berry you survive, and then KO Starmie back with super effective damage. Funnily enough, Starmie can do the very same thing and run a Kolba Berry to reduce damage from dark type attacks. It's berries all the way down, I tell ya, in Gen 4. It's berries all the way down. Tyranitar's eating a berry, Starmie's eating a berry, and no one's dying because there's too many berries. It's all about berries, for goodness sake. Many Pokemon abuse the Yachi Berry, a berry that halves damage from Ice-type damage. There are a lot of Ice-weak Pokemon out there. Dragonite loves the Yachi Berry. In future games, Garchomp would appreciate the Yachi Berry very much. Heatran famously loves the Shuka Berry. Heatran's ×4 weak to ground, but the Shuka Berry shields it from ground damage. For goodness sake, it does. Gyarados can abuse the Wakan Berry, shielding it from electric damage and allowing it to Dragon Dance in the face of an electric move. Previously unheard of concepts happening here. These berries were huge. Any Pokemon can pretty much use this berry to get one extra free turn and even bait enemies to hit them, thinking that they'll KO but actually surviving. It's just universally applicable. You see them in singles and even VGC all the time. I think in every generation these berries are used commonly for this purpose, and they are fantastic berries. Gen 4 was also responsible for another of the most commonly seen berries throughout competitive history since, and that is the citrus berry. The citrus berry did exist in previous games, but in Gen 4 it got buffed significantly. Previously, the citrus berry just restored a flat 30 points of HP. Not very good, of course, if you're level 100. 30 HP is peanuts. But now the citrus berry restores 1/4 of your max HP, and it procs when you're at half HP or less, which is a little bit easier to proc than some other berries. And the citrus berry is kind of a go-to item when you need a temporary short-term heal. And on some Pokemon it is better than leftovers. Boost Sweepers like this move because they can take a hit and then heal a little bit to survive another hit and boost again. Utility Pokemon like this move. Utility Pokemon that don't aim to stick around very long because the temporary quarter health heal that procs pretty consistently is very nice. In VGC, I think you see this item all the time just because it's convenient with item claws to throw this on something. And since games don't go very long, the citrus berry will usually be a pretty nice little temporary heal that lets you live a little bit longer. It's a good item that has many applications. Another good application for the citrus berry is to activate the ability Unburden, which existed later in the series. Unburden is an ability that activates when an item gets consumed, and upon an item getting consumed, it grants the Pokemon double speed. Since the citrus berry gets consumed very easily, this is a great combination, especially if the unburdened Pokemon is a boost sweeper. They boost up, take a hit, heal a little bit back, and now they are faster than the whole world. It's a great combo. The citrus berry is a great berry. It's a ideal berry in the eyes of many. Some believe it's the platonic ideal of berries. Now, Gen 4 also introduced a bit of weirdo berries. There's this berry right here called the Jaboca berry, which is a bit of an intriguing berry, wouldn't you say? The Jaboca berry will activate if the holder is hit by a physical move, and upon doing so, the attacker will lose 1/8 of their max HP. It's kind of like the world's worst Rocky Helmet. But, unlike Rocky Helmet, it works on any physical move, not just contact moves. Apparently, sometimes the Jaboca berry is used in the 1v1 format. 1v1 is a format where each player has 3 Pokemon they choose from, they pick one, and then they just battle with that Pokemon versus the other Pokemon. It's kind of like advanced rock, paper, scissors. And the Jaboca berry you could see being valuable there to break sturdy and other such things, do a bit of damage, and it's a bit better than a Rocky Helmet in that context, because you'd rather chip them from all physical moves rather than only contact moves, I suppose, since it's a short battle anyway. That one little bit of chip damage is relevant. Other than that, though, I don't think the Jaboca berry has much application. And there is also a special version of the Jaboca berry called the Roap berry, which does the same exact thing, but if you get hit by a special attack, it deals a bit of chip damage. Never seen that one before, but maybe there's some insane reason to use the Roap berry. And in an unbelievable turn of events, this is a berry that I found out about the existence of just today. And maybe it's the funniest berry in the series, the Michael berry. The Michael berry, made of course by Michael, one of the designers, and the Michael berry it does the worst effect I've ever heard of. At 1/4 of your max HP or less, your next move will have 1.2x accuracy. You only get extra accuracy on your next move, and then all your other moves after that are back to normal accuracy. They couldn't just give you an accuracy boost, for goodness sake. That would suck it by itself. That would be terrible. But your next move has a little bit more accuracy and then never again? Michael, what were you thinking? No one's using this berry. This is a bad berry. The Salac berry offers an entire speed boost that is permanent until exiting. The Kustamp berry is doing much more than the Michael berry. Who are you, Michael, thinking that this berry can hold a candle to other ones? This is embarrassing work from Michael, who's usually a very good designer on Pokemon, but really dropped the ball on this one, didn't you? Now in Gen 5, I don't think that they released that many new competitively relevant berries, but the metagame around berries did change dramatically. One of the big new additions for berry fans everywhere was a new ability called Harvest. Harvest is an ability that synergizes with berries specifically. If your last item used is a berry, there is a 50% chance to restore the berry at the end of each turn, and that's boosted to 100% in the sun. This is actually a very very good ability, and Executor was blessed with this fantastic ability. You can use a citrus berry here and the frustrating combination of Substitute and Leech Seed to consistently heal with your citrus berry, bring yourself down to the ratio where you heal with it, and then get the berry back constantly, making you very difficult to actually eliminate because you're substituting but then healing yourself back, getting the berry back, healing again, and it never ends. Fortunately, they've never given this to a Pokemon that's that good. Executor gets it, Tropius gets it, nothing that fantastic gets it. But if any of you play random battles, you'll be aware that in random battles, Harvest Pokemon are damn good. If you see one of these guys on your random team, you can thank your lucky stars, because they're going to be very difficult to actually kill, and they're going to give you a lot of value and never die and always live. I believe Tropius is a random battle's favorite for its access to Harvest, and the Harvest is certainly plentiful in that instance. Gen 5 also controversially introduced to the series the first ever anti-berry technology. The ability Unnerve is an ability that, while active, prevents opposing Pokemon from eating their berries because they're so frightened, I guess, that they specifically can't eat berries. I don't know the logic behind that, but sure. I'll accept it, I'll buy into it. You can see how this ability might be useful when you're trying to counteract an enemy Pokemon that is taking advantage of a type berry to survive an incoming hit. This is a bit of counterplay to that. Unfortunately, it's just never been on a very relevant Pokemon in competitive. Tyranitar gets Unnerve, but it has to run Unnerve over its far superior ability Sandstream, so you never see Unnerve Tyranitar ever. The main Pokemon that abuses Unnerve, I think, would be the Calyrex Riders, because they get Unnerve and Grimneigh at the same time. They get two abilities in one, because of course Calyrex is riding on the horse, and they are two entities. They get two abilities. It's a bit unfair. One of them is Unnerve, and that's very good in the VGC formats, where berries are pretty common. No citrus berry eating, no type berry eating when Calyrex is involved. Gen 5 is also a unique metagame where for the first time ever, people started using the Roast Berry. I spoke earlier about how Lumberry, for the most part, completely outclasses all of the other status refreshing berries, because why would you only want to cure a specific status when you can cure all status? I mentioned that the only real exception to that was the Chesto berry, which can be used alongside Rest for a synergy. So why then would anyone use the Roast berry specifically? What's up with that? Why not use the Lumberry? Well, Gen 5 introduced to the series one of the most powerful new moves ever made, Scald. Scald is a water-type attack with 80 power and a 30% chance to burn. This combination of solid power and an incredibly high-impact secondary effect were a smash hit. This is a famously difficult move to switch in against. Even if you resist water, the high-impact secondary effect of being burned that happens pretty often is enough to frighten. So something like Gyarados can't really come in on Scald, can it? At risk of being burned. So a lot of these boost sweepers that don't want to get burned would give themselves Lumberries to shield themselves from burn potentially, and Lumberry also shields you from other status. But then players realize that, wait a second, if I get paralyzed or poisoned and then the Lumberry gets consumed, now I am vulnerable to Scald again. If I get paralyzed, that's good. If I get paralyzed, it means that I can't get burned anymore. You can't overwrite the status with another status. Once you're statused, you can't be inflicted with another different status. So for this reason, something like Ferrothorn, for example, would run a Roast Berry, because it actually doesn't mind getting paralyzed, because once it's paralyzed, it can completely safely switch in on Scald and not worry about that burn chance. It only wants to cure burn. This is a testament to just how powerful Scald was. Pokemon are willing to get paralyzed, which is a terrible thing to be. You don't want to be paralyzed, but it's better to be paralyzed and be sure that Scald will never burn you again than to use a Lumberry and have the Lumberry consumed on paralysis. And that is why the Roast Berry was used in Gen 5 on some Pokemon. It's not that common, to be fair, but Ferrothorn could use it. I used it on Kyurem Black before, because Kyurem Black is actually really good at switching in against Scald if you have the insurance of a Roast Berry. And if you get paralyzed, it's even better at switching in against Scald, because it can never be burned. This only ever really happened in Gen 5 just because of how prevalent Scald was, especially because there's permanent rain. But maybe this could be used again if you're very worried about Scald. I don't think Scald is ever at its high point like in Gen 5 ever again, though, so this isn't really worth it in other generations. Have you ever heard about Forbidden Berry technology, folks? Because in Gen 5, a bit more Forbidden Berry technology reared its head. The leper berry existed for a while, but it wasn't until now that there was a use for it. The leper berry will restore 10 PP to the first of the holder's move to reach 0 PP. It's an interesting seeming berry with possible application to maybe allow you to use a move 10 more times in a very long game. Usually though, a Pokemon aiming to stick around for that long is probably just gonna run leftovers or something, which also provides long-term value. This strategy though was a strategy not aiming to win, but to trap the enemy in a permanent purgatory. You see, with the combination of Leper Berry and Recycle, you can kind of break the game here. Recycle is a simple move that restores the last item that the user consumed. So this right here is a game-breaking combo because it allows you to have infinite PP. The Leper Berry gets consumed when you run out of PP on a move. You recycle it, and then you can just keep constantly restoring 10 PP and never run out of moves. Pokemon is a game where you're supposed to, if a game goes on for 1,000 turns or whatever, run out of all your moves and start struggling. It's part of the balance of the game. It's like a win condition you can play towards. But this breaks that unless you have infinite PP. But that's still not that great. And this combo did exist before, but it was never that fantastic. It's way too passive, and there's not much actual application for it. But Slowbro right here can use this combination plus block. You can block the enemy and prevent them from switching out. And if you block an enemy that is passive enough that can't hit Slowbro very hard, then you can kind of just sit there forever while they run out of all their resources. But there's more, folks. There's a move here called the Heal Pulse that heals the enemy by 50%. And this is the key. This is what causes infinite battles. This is what causes the enemy to never be able to leave, because you block them, you sit there as they run out of all their PP while you are recycling that Leper Berry and never running out yourself. And then they start struggling. And struggle, of course, deals 25% damage to yourself when used. So eventually you die enough when you struggle, right? But what if you just keep healing them? They're out of moves and they can only struggle and they're trapped. They can't do anything else. But what if you just keep healing them so that they also never die? And you never run out of heal pulses because you can keep recycling Leper Berries. This can create an infinite battle, and this was a very controversial scenario where something called the Endless Battle Clause was introduced to combat this. On Pokemon Showdown, if it is detected that a combination of strategies that can create an endless battle is being used, it will forcefully end the game for the player using this controversial strategy. And you know what's funny? Is that I, JimCool, discovered something related to this strategy right here. I discovered, when I was making a video on the topic, that in Gen 5, the Endless Battle Clause was broken. It didn't work. I was trying to get footage of the Endless Battle Clause activating to show it off in a video, but it was just never activating. I was creating endless battles in Gen 5 with this Slowbro set, and they were not punishing me for it. And I said, wait a second, can I just do this on the ladder? Will there be any repercussions? So I did exactly that. There's a video of me doing so. And yeah, it just wasn't working. The Endless Battle Clause was not implemented properly in Gen 5 for whatever reason. Upon discovering this, they did fix it, but that was crazy that this Slowbro set that can literally create a never-ending purgatory was not being punished whatsoever. You could just use it and nothing would happen to you. Don't use it now though, you will be forfeited, you will lose points if you use this. They've updated it, but back then, at that brief moment, it was a funny time. Gen 6 was a quiet gen for berry fans. Mega Evolutions came out. It was more of a stone-based generation with all the Mega Stones in circulation. There was also the Assault Vest was a more popular item. In some ways a vest generation. Not as much of a berry generation like Gen 4 was, where it's berries all the way down. But there was some interesting berry additions. The new Key Berry was introduced, and this is a pretty good berry actually. Upon being hit by a physical attack, the berry will grant a defense boost and be consumed. And this is a pretty good berry on Calm Mind users, because Calm Mind users appreciate the defensive bulk, and if they happen to have the move Stored Power, that's an extra stored power boost, since stored power gets more power each boost you have. So the Key Berry has application there. It's a popular item in 1v1 for that reason. You can imagine why. In an environment where you can't even switch out, the short-term benefit of the Key Berry has more application there, doesn't it? Unfortunately, the Key Berry would be kind of outclassed when the Terrain Seeds hit the scene in the very next gen. The Grassy Seed gets consumed if Grassy Terrain is active and just grants a defense boost. That's a much safer way to get a defense boost on a Calm Mind sweeper or other sweepers. not requiring you to take a physical hit to do so. The only application for the key berry really, instead of the seeds, is that it doesn't require you to run a terrain user alongside. But usually the terrain users are good anyway, so that's not much of a detriment. I think that the key berry has some application still, but it is a very niche berry. It's a niche berry, but it's a good berry in ways. There was also a special counterpart to the key berry, which was the maranga berry. The maranga berry does the same thing, but for special. If you get hit by a special attack, it raises your special defense. I've personally never seen the maranga berry, though. I've seen the key berry a little bit. The maranga berry is elusive. You don't see it too much. Looks kind of poisonous. I don't know if I'd eat the maranga berry. It looks poisonous. The key berry looks a bit more yummy. I feel like the key berry looks like it's got a lot of juice in it. The maranga berry looks like it might poison me. But regardless, that's about all that happened with berries in Gen 6. There was also Azumarill was really good with Citrus Berry because it had the Citrus Berry Belly Drum combo. That was cool. Belly Drum, Citrus Berry, Azumarill. Azumarill got a buff here. Beyond that, though, not a very berry-centric generation, was it? In Gen 7, though, we saw perhaps the most powerful berry yet. In Gen 7, they buffed the pinch healing berries very significantly, like the Ayapapa Berry and the Mago Berry. These berries that heal your HP at 1/4 or less. Usually these were never used over the Citrus Berry, but now the Ayapapa Berry, etc. will restore 1/2 of your max HP when brought to 1/4 or less. That's exactly as much as Recover. That's a significant amount of healing. The Citrus Berry only heals 1/4. So this became an incredibly powerful berry, and a very popular berry immediately. One abuser of this great berry was Ferrothorn. It's perfect on Ferrothorn, isn't it? This is a Pokemon that is very powerful defensively in a short-term capacity. It can tank hits very well temporarily, set Stealth Rock, set layers, do some damage, and then faint, and chip things with Iron Barbs. Leftovers can be good on this, but it's not as good as it is on a more sturdy defensive wall with reliable recovery and such. Ferrothorn is usually not aiming to stick around for a super long time, so the Ayapapa Berry is perfect to give it one significant heal in the short term. And Ferrothorn is a Pokemon that can pretty reliably survive a hit and proc this berry when at 25% or less. This was a popular set on Rain teams, I recall, in Gen 7, because Rain, while up, will nerf the power of fire damage, and that conveniently means that Ferrothorn will just survive fire hits and then heal a bunch of health, which is a really great synergy. It feels like Ferrothorn kind of has a whole extra health bar with this berry. I remember Rotom Wash also using this berry in Gen 7 a lot, because Rotom Wash is another Pokemon similar to Ferrothorn that has great defensive traits in the short term and is all about pivoting and momentum and status and hitting things. It can often be hit into that range to eat the berry, and then it gets a whole extra health bar, which is also fantastic. These berries are great on Pokemon like this. Short-term defensive utility fellas. And these healing pinch berries were widespread in VGC as well, and were even better there, arguably. Of course, Incineroar was a chief abuser of pinch healing berries like the Iapapa berry, etc. And what was great about these berries in VGC is that they kind of allowed you to bypass the item clause a little bit, because all these berries pretty much have the same effect. It's just if you have a certain nature, they'll confuse you, which is a weird effect, but that's what they have. That's the only thing distinguishing them. The Wiki Berry and the Ayapapa Berry, etc. all have the same effect of healing you for half HP when you're at 1/4 of HP. So you can actually use basically the same item on multiple Pokemon in VGC, which usually you're not allowed to do. And it's very convenient because this is basically like the leftovers of VGC in Gen 7. It's perfect to get a temporary big heal, because VGC games go short. And Incineroar with this berry was an absolute bastard, let me tell you, with all of its utility with Intimidate and Fake Out, and now it gets to heal as well. It often gets hit into range of that damn berry and heals significantly and gets to switch out and back in and Intim and Fake Out again. Goodness gracious, it's more value than they should allow. It's more value than should be allowed. Oh, also, I forgot to mention the ability Cheek Pouch, another berry ability that came out of Gen 6. We're doing things a bit out of order here. Forgive me. I forgot about Cheek Pouch. Hamster ability. Hamster-based ability. Cheek Pouch will activate if the Pokemon eats a berry. and upon eating a berry, they will restore 1/3 of their max HP. It's a good ability. It is a good ability, however, unfortunately, it is only available on stupid Pokemon like Squavit. Squavit gets this, and I don't value Squavit. Deden gets it. I value Deden, but he's not very good, though. Little hamster. Bunnelby gets it, but surely Bunnelby would prefer a different ability. Diggersby would prefer huge power. Don't be stupid. So Deden, Cheek Pouch is sort of nothing because only bad Pokemon get it. But it's a good ability, though, in theory. Maybe. In Gen 8, they nerfed the Ear Papa Berry back to a reasonable level. Now it only heals for 1/3 of max HP. Still a bit more than Citrus Berry, but not quite an entire half of your HP. Still has its application, but not the best berry of all time anymore. Quiet time for berries in Gen 8 overall. The staple berries that everyone uses, like the Citrus Berry and the Type Berries and the Cristamp Berry, still see play. The Lumberry, of course. The only real new berry mechanic seen in Gen 8 was the ability Ripen. It's an interesting ability that will double the effects of certain berries. So you eat a Citrus Berry and it heals double as much as it usually does. What a concept. A Select Berry could perhaps grant 2 stages of speed instead of just 1. Now, it only works with certain berries. The Michael Berry will not work, because that would be too powerful, of course, to eat a double Michael Berry. I mean, come on. Let's be reasonable people here. But what's even more tragic about the Ripen ability is that it's only available on Flapple and Appleton, who both have better abilities. Appleton would much rather use Thick Fat, which is a great ability that grants effective resistance to fire and ice. That is so much better than eating a berry a little bit more. I mean, what are you talking about? You're going to eat more of a berry instead of having entire type resistances? Be serious with me. And then Flapple would rather use Hustle for bonus damage. Flapple's not very good, regardless, but what is it going to eat some more Michael berries? No, it's going to get more damage from Hustle. Or it's not even going to be used at all because it's Flapple. And it's a Pingwar that is flying. It's not a good Pokemon. So Ripen is never used. Ripen could be good, maybe, on the right Pokemon, but it's only on Appleton, and Appleton is using a different ability, if it's being used at all. And so is Flapple. Now in Gen 9, they really changed everything with the berry metagame, because ever since the Michael Berry released, there's been a hubbub in the Pokemon headquarters, where Michael and his adversary Brian were butting heads a little bit. So Brian came out with his own berry to defeat the Michael Berry, and the Brian Berry is an unbelievable berry that activates instantly, grants +6 to all stats, and kills all of the enemy Pokemon, except for one at random. But that one random Pokemon will surely perish to the most powerful berry boost that's ever been done, the Brian Berry. And then Michael was swiftly fired from Game Freak after this for making a comparatively terrible berry. Following this, the Brian Berry was universally banned and considered a taboo. Most want to pretend that it never happened, but I will never forget. Anyway, beyond that berry, though, there's not much berry news in Gen 9. Not much happening here beyond just the standard berries of the past, seeing their regular usage. There was one interesting new berry ability, though, introduced in Gen 9, which was Cudchew. The new Paldean Tauroses get this ability, and so does Girafarig, I think. Am I stupid? Farigiraf, the new Girafarig evolution, gets Cudchew as well. Cudchew is an ability wherein, if this Pokemon eats a berry, it will then eat that berry again at the end of the next turn. So you get double berry value. And Tauros Paldea can actually use the interesting Endure Reversal Salac set that has been forgotten by time, and it will eat the Salac berry twice for a double speed boost, which is interesting, maybe, but unfortunately, in an unsurprising turn of events, you would much rather just use the superior ability Intimidate on this Pokemon in the lower tiers where it's used. Cudchew is not really popular on this. It's a lot of setup as well, the Endure Reversal thing. Cudchew, though, is an ability with a lot of potential that could be very good on the right Pokemon. Farigiraf also doesn't really use Cudchew. It would rather use Armor Tail, an ability that grants priority immunity. That is a far better ability for it. A berry at first glance may seem like a mere fruit with little to offer beyond a fleeting bit of sustenance. But the Pokemon franchise has taught us that berries can have game-ending and universe-ending ramifications, some of them being forbidden berries, some being competitively metagame-defining berries, And even though they are free from a bush with little value in the greater economy, in the Pokemon world they are highly valuable and sought after. Berries are a fundamental part of existence in Pokemon that I believe deserve more respect and more accolades. Berries are very good, I've been told. Thank you for watching. What's your favorite berry? Is it the Michael berry? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you for watching.